Hello, welcome back to Suzerain. We will, I think, let's see, finalization of the H3 highway contract. Let's do that before we do anything else, actually. After driving through the cliffside roads, we arrived at Lenkerg, where the cheerful citizens greeted us and local government officials escorted us to the city hall. Here a significant meeting about the H3 project would take place. Several construction companies sent their representatives to the city hall. Even though Gus Manager couldn't make the meeting, I had Simon Hall and Lilis Graff by my side. Simon Hall, besides starting our economic recovery, the travel time by the road will drop by more than half, Mr. President. This project will improve the Angland region. I have lived with these people and seen them suffer. I trust your plan, Simon. I'm glad to hear that. We'll be able to slow down the recession if we finish this project successfully. That's the thing. So we actually need to make, let's see, positive financial outcomes are expected. According to my sources, this can lift many out of the poverty in these areas. That's important. Do you need additional support? Not as of right now, however, things might come up if the project doesn't go according to plan. Thank you for the offer. Searched the documents he was holding and found that one that he was looking for. I have the overview of the companies here. Someone handed the file over to me. Look at the files. 3 corporations were listed. The Swedish State Corporation, the old reliable, Stat-Korporatet Sordland, and then you have Underhåll Construction, which is the company that Walter Tusk wanted us to award the contract to. And then you have Taurus Holding, new and entrepreneurial private company that uses cutting-edge construction technology and from Arcadia to reduce construction costs and prices. So that can reduce price and costs, but it can also be a risk. This is probably safe, and this is probably cheap or something. I don't know. I reviewed them, and I took the liberty of asking the mayor of Arvid to give us the opinion of the matter. Which corporation should we talk about? Let's talk about the Swedish State Corporation. The main state corporation tasked with running the day-to-day construction services of our country. Most trusted and honorable companies. They have served us a long time. I've worked with them on several occasions. It would fulfill your initial election promise of using state-dominant planned economy to improve the bleak economic prospects. They have the experience and the manpower to pull off a project like this. Secondly, they are the only company to have worked in the Angland region out of all the 3 corporations. Well, they're already starting off on a good foot. The outdated construction methods that they use concern me. They are several decades behind. The experience is beneficial. I want to hear more about the others. I will let you guys hear more about the others, but I have made my decision already. Taurus Holding was founded in 1946 and is owned by the entrepreneur Gerald Face. It is a new holding company whose subsidiaries use cutting-edge technology. We just saw this. They are known to provide for their workers who are part of the labor union of Sordland, which is cool. There are other things Taurus Holding does very well, like providing consultants for the state corporations, but I can't vouch for their infrastructure construction at all. Why shouldn't we go with Taurus? Well, one of our promises would be respected. We promise to focus on the planned economy to create jobs. This company is completely private and directed by a non-governmental board. Do you even remember if they worked on a medical project at all? Choosing this company is too much of a risk for an important project like this, especially one when a proven SSE exists. Yeah, too much at stake here. They're the only company who found the budget sufficient, making them a cheaper alternative. Yeah, but that could also be just because they want the contract, you know? I don't feel confident about Taurus Holding. Let's talk about Underhåll. Real estate and construction giant was founded in 1925. Picking this corporation would go against our planned economy policy, of course. The CEO is Chris Shar, mayor of Conrad. He sold half his shares a few years ago to Tusk. They took several contracts for the central station renovation and left much to be decided. The H3 project shouldn't be left to them. I'd like to hear your thoughts, Simon. I think that they have been doing relatively well in the private sector, where they are dominating the construction industry with successful projects. Nonetheless, they treated their workers below our working standard during the whole such central station contract, which is troubling. Working conditions must be respected. This doesn't inspire confidence. I agree. The workers were undocumented Agnolian and Wessex immigrants with no papers, a clear violation of our laws. According to them, the reason for the bad labor conditions was because of the tight completion schedule, which is of course that's what they say every time, which still doesn't justify the situation. Underhåll has specifically mentioned their solid track record and highlighted that the cost of the project would be more than expected for a project of the scale, but finished on time. Nope. I have settled on the SEC. So yeah, you see, like, it becomes more expensive there, but that will make Tusk happy. This one is a risk, and this one is a safe. I'm gonna go with the SEC. Simon signed a certain section of the dossier and fixed his glasses. Very well, Mr. President. The contract will be awarded to the Swedish State Corporation. Very glad as you have made this choice. I can tell from my experience that we will be very satisfied with this corporation. I'm going to try to get better at clicking these things so you can read them here on the side while I'm talking and stuff. The company will be notified today about the construction work, or that construction work will begin immediately after. I think we're off to a good start. My expectations for a grand opening ceremony are late next year. Better get back to work then. Thank you. This concludes the meeting. Meeting ended and we spent the remainder of the day attending the events in Lenkirk. It was nice to enjoy the natural beauty of England and to eat some good fish. This is in turn 2, yeah. That's the highway progress there. Let's go to the economic relief plan. With the assistance of the National Business Council and the Central Bank, Simon Hall put forward a countrywide relief plan to mitigate the economic hardships that are being felt. We can either provide stimulus checks for people in need, or bail out businesses under serious financial strain, or decide not to approve the plan. I need one budget for the police, I need one budget for the military, I need one budget for this, I need one budget for the healthcare system. Maybe we won't fund the military. We'll fund the we might fund the police. But I will provide stimulus checks for people in need because during an economic crisis, the approach should never be to try to, so like if the businesses are failing, right? If you keep them running, that's good. You know, maintain people's jobs, but if everything is already in the shit, who's gonna go buy stuff from those businesses? You're just sort of, you know, pushing, like, if you're kicking the can down the road, right? But if you give stimulus checks, those people, or people can go to those businesses, it stimulates business, and will actually give people what they need in order to survive. Like, it helps people directly, immediately, even if their businesses fail. I'm gonna do that. It's gonna be spooky. Let's read some news. Rumburg closes consulate. Yeah, everyone is worried about that. Deterioration between the relations of Sordland and Rumburg. The Economist says unemployment in checks and registration has fallen for populism and the idea that giving people money will solve the problems for the economy overall. It is hard. It's not. It's a band-aid. It is hard to grasp where these ideas come from, especially when long-term job growth and employment is what this country needs to secure in order to have a stable economy. Sorry, I just need to blow something off my glasses. What is the plan here? People will be able to pay their rents for a few months, and then they will fall into the same unemployment trap due to a lack of job availability or security. Well, we now have a few months to deal with that before these people, like, instead of throwing them onto the street today. Anything else here? Underall Construction once again number 1, says The Economist, which is probably owned by Underall Construction or something, the wrong economy. Free market economy for good reason. Now, before anybody calls us Arcacia sympathizers, we don't support the excessive form of capitalism Arcacia is spreading around the world, like in Lesbia. Our belief is that a balance can exist where the government can support the private sector with government money. Of course you believe that. Lachman. Reform demands gain popularity. Demands for reform are gaining more popularity than ever. Latest public opinion reports show that the majority of Swedish people want changes in the governmental structures. I don't see a percentage, but the proposal must collect at least 150 signatures and then reach the needed 166 votes. Then it's voted in the Supreme Court, as well as judicial review, which still stands as the biggest obstacle before the parties. Yeah, that is the big problem. Gang violence claims young girl's life. That sucks. Political chaos. NFP and LUS call for protests. The Labour Union of Sordland and the NFP. Young Swords vandalized shops. NFP office burned. Let's have a look. Worker Party Solidarity March. The pro-minority Workers' Party of Bludia will rally in the Bludish majority city of Suzerain. Attracted a large audience. The gathering was heavy on flags and banners and whipping in the rain and chill wind as the gatherers declared solidarity with Bernard Sarkas. 1927, never again. Where the Swedish people killed each other. Real truth behind economic crisis. That money is invested in us, the people of Sordland, instead of armchair millionaires and their luxurious villas. Well, I agree. Risky highway project, yep. It's been given to the Swedish state. Given to the old and outdated Swedish State Corporation with the decision of the president. Mega projects such as the construction of ports, transport lines, including railways and motorways and power plants, typically cost billions of SR. They are difficult to manage due to their scale, high levels of complexity and substantial impact on communities. They're deriding its inefficient bureaucracy that often causes delays, I guess. The Holsort post, construction begins for H3 highway. Opposition leader Richter had warned letting SSC build H3 would be extremely questionable. He probably wants the holding group, maybe? I don't know. Kibner suggests expanding executive powers. The leader of the NFP has suggested that the new constitution should expand executive powers, adding fuel to the debate over the possibility of reforming the 1929 constitution. He pointed out the current situation of Sordland and emphasized the need for strong leadership. Oh, of course you do, you authoritarian. President Rain talks to protesters. Rain visited towns around Greater Holsort and Gruni regions, which were heavily affected by the protests and riots that popped up around the country, triggered by the death of Sarkas. He was seen talking to the protesters and listening to the concerns of the citizens. This sends a powerful message to Swedish citizens that the government is walking among them and listening to their problems. Holsort is desperately trying to restart Sordland's economy, and after the recession, this political unrest is not helping, said a Swedish scholar and professor of law at Holsort State University in Holsort. The Redundancy Department. We're headed to the meeting location set by Marcel Caronti. The motorcade was made up of most confidential and trustworthy team. The most. After a few hours driving along River Eskel, we took a turn before entering Konriat. The darkness started setting in as we drove up to a hill. Could see giant stadium lights at the hilltop far away in the distance. It looked like a massive complex. We are nearing our destination. We arrived at the big iron gates of the country club. Oh, and the big iron gates of the country club opened. It was huge and outright extravagant. The main building, inspired by lesbian architecture, was lit from all sides. It was rather chilly. I was approached by Petra Becton and Lucian Galat. Hope the journey was comfortable. Can't think of comfort when our country is descending into chaos. When you put it like that, enter the building. After opening the marble-engraved wooden door, we were greeted by two tall women. The receptionist led us to the meeting room upstairs. Marcel was standing by the window looking outside and the beautiful complex. He turned around to have a quick look at us both. He was really a handsome man with fair hair. He walked towards me with his hand, reached out for a handshake. Reached out for a handshake, back. He had a firm grip, as they all do. It is such a pleasure to meet you in person, Mr. Coronti. I appreciate your efforts to reach out for a mutually beneficial relationship or friendship. Thanks for hosting us. I admire your father very much. May he rest in peace. Welcome. Your kind words have touched me, Vice President. He was indeed a great man. May he rest in peace. He was a true entrepreneur. Please accept our condolences. We are saddened. You should have been very happy to hear this from you, Mr. President. It is time to look forward. Let's talk about our bright future. Let's have a seat. Marcel gently pointed at the seats. We sat down around a gigantic table. Before speaking, he knocked on wood. The past months have been tumultuous, to say the least. I am glad you and your family were unharmed at the shooting. The whole incident must have been a shock for the kids. They aren't used to what we lived through back in the 20s. I still remember when my father took us out of the country when it became too dangerous in Konrad. The important part is that they're safe and sound. Of course, that is all that matters. No family should suffer from tragedy ever again. We had enough of that. Well, I'm known to be a straightforward person, so let me get to the point without wasting your valuable time. It was during the Alfonso campaign when I was struck by what could have been done, or what you have done within the party, rather. Look at the paintings. Famous piece depicted a giant sleeping beneath a village. The trees, rivers, and hills were all part of the giant's body. Its eyes were two caves looking out at the people. It showed daylight at the far left and night at the far right. The giant seemed to be watching the village. It was totally unbeknownst to the villagers. Said we will transform this nation, Mr. Rain. My conglomerate has a way of doing things I don't want them to change. So I want to cooperate with you. You might have the people's support now, Mr. President, but what happens when you make mistakes? Everybody makes mistakes. Being a president in this country means having many enemies, enemies that would resort to anything to bring you down. Let's say those enemies caused a scandal or leaked sensitive information from the administration. These would be destructive when they were released. If they were released. I see what you're getting at. You knew that a long time before we came here. You aren't just being nice, are you? I want two things, Mr. President. Number one is a guarantee from you that the Rain administration won't meddle in HOS affairs no matter what happens. Number two is a simple gentleman's favor for the future. Let me prove my services to you first, and then I'm sure you won't disapprove when the time comes. It is an interesting proposal. Not just interesting, but necessary. You surely know that this is a win-win situation. The media will be on your side, strengthening your position. It will also protect my business operations throughout the changes this country will see. Now, this guy is a pragmatic person, pragmatic person that I kind of like, weirdly enough, even though like I'm sort of against most of his practices and stuff. I like the idea that he isn't here to stop me from changing the country. He just wants to, secure his place, and such. He's not like, he knows that change is coming. He has accepted that, but he wants to be on the right side of history, I guess, while also maybe just like eking out a little safe space for himself. We have a deal. Happy to hear that. You can contact me personally through this number. As soon as you know that a stories against you will break, please call me and it will be taken care of. I hope you will uphold your end of the bargain as well. I will shake his hand. Marcel put his second hand on mine. We'll meet again. Goodbye. Thank you for your time, Mr. Cronty. Let's return to Holsword. Struck a backroom. Mutual assistance deal with Marcel Caronti. What's next? In Deir. Funeral of Bernard Surcasse. The death of Bernard Surcasse shocked the country, and his funeral will be held in Deir among a large crowd of sympathizers. Surcasse was not only a communist poet, but also an elected MP that has had a voice. A state funeral has been organized to honor him. The question is whether the president and the administration will attend the funeral or not. Of course I have to. It's like, I mentioned this in a past video. I forget his name again, but I mentioned this during the demo, I think in the final episode. The German funeral of this man killed by the, I believe, communists in Germany was used by Goebbels to an extreme degree to sort of radicalize a lot of people towards the NS position. And it was incredibly effective. Now, I'm not saying we're going to go all Goebbels on this stuff, but we are going to attend, because to not attend would send a poor signal or no signal at all, and we wouldn't be in control of the narrative. If we do attend, we can at least like try to send some positive signals, and also, of course, show our respect to a man who is beloved by many, at least. Was, rather. Saint Dust's nearest cemetery. Nearest is probably then a religion, right? Because of the star. Dark clouds were looming over Deir. It looked daunting as our convoy started approaching the century-old cemetery. Oh, the music is awesome. Oh, can I turn this up a little bit? Looked like it was going to rain, certainly fitting weather for a funeral. As expected, Bernard Surcasse's passing maintained its media attraction, and all of Swordland was paying attention to the ceremony, especially to what I would say in my speech today. Sir, we've arrived. Raindrops were running down the car window when Serge opened my door and held an umbrella over my head. As soon as I got out, flashes from the cameras blinded me. It's okay, Serge, I will hold my own umbrella. As you wish, sir. He handed me the umbrella and started waiting next to the car with his own. Peter and Carl exited from their own cars in the convoy. They made their way over towards me. Anton, Mr. President, I just want to inform you that the perimeter is clear and secured completely. There is no one getting in or out without our knowledge. Good work. Thank you, Carl. Good, if anything happens to Anton, you will have to answer to the First Lady. And trust me, Carl, you don't want that. Petr let out a laugh which drew some attention from bereaving attendees. Petr. Gestured to Petr to lower his voice a bit. You're right, sorry. It started to rain. I thought it was already raining, but I guess it hadn't begun yet. Several illegible voices were heard from Carl's radio. He stepped out to reply and returned shortly. We have a small problem, sir. A few, 5 to be exact, Red Youth members are here to attend the funeral. They apparently say they wish to give their respects to their fallen comrade. Should we let them in? Yes, of course. As you command. Let's head over, they're about to start. This is a funeral for one of their people. I doubt they're going to start shit at his funeral. They're going to be respectful. We walked towards the crowd circled around the grave. Everyone in attendance was wearing black in mourning. The rain started pouring heavily. Bernard's widow and daughter were in the front row, staring at the coffin with a mixture of disbelief, confusion, and above all a cold, unforgiving sadness. Both their eyes were very red and swollen from weeping. Before taking my place to observe the ceremony, I gave my condolences to Bernard's wife and his daughter, who looked at me. She reminded me of Diana. When the religious ceremony was done, I was invited by the priest to deliver my speech. I took the podium. I felt like I had a lump in my throat. Couldn't get my the daughter's eyes out from my head. Today we're mourning Bernard Surcasse, a father, a husband, and a loyal servant of this country. Towards the back of the crowd, I spotted the members of the Red Youth, wearing red shirts and black bands of mourning on their arms. They seemed ruly and were respectfully bowing their heads after the dead. There was a complete silence, except for the raindrops. Now this is where we use this. We use this to profess our ideals, our ideology, and so on. This is a milquetoast generic thing to say. This will be important, though we were asked not to. This is the country overview, by the way. I forgot to show this. We were, I guess, asked or advised not to take a side because it could just make things worse. But I'm going to say he was a true comrade and he fought for what he believed in, his ideal vision of Swordsland in every step of his life. Because my character, I'm going for like hard reforms, I'm going for like a sort of left-wing populist figure, but I'm also not necessarily falling in line with his ideology, but I'm saying that he fought for what he believed in. His ideal world, which, and lofty ideals, and that is something that we should admire, I think. Surcasse had a dream of a unified Swordsland. In these next months, we need to fulfill his dream and band together. This one, hatred begets hatred. Yes, but also no, because like there are some people whom, if you try to love them, they will kill you. Let us all mourn the passing of Bernard Surcasse and remember him well. I would now like to recite one of the poems he left us. Let's see, our only strength is the will to survive, knowing that we will perish, knowing nothing more absolute. We rise towards the sun, those who died fighting. They are now buried in the sun. No need to mourn. There is a raid to the sun. They did not let us sing our songs. They are afraid of the dawn. They are afraid of hope, but our songs will be sung. That one is amazing. I don't know if that's the one I picked last time, but I feel like that's the one I would have picked last time during the demo. They're afraid of the dawn. They're afraid of hope, but our songs will be sung. Surcasse will be remembered. Now a moment of silence. During the silence, all that was heard were the ravens. Some attendees started clapping, some crying. The coffin was lowered into the grave by the gravekeepers. After a couple of minutes, Bernard Sarkas was with the soil and no more. As we bid farewell to Bernard, I want to close with the words every sword lives by, a Morgna was Kore. Everyone replied, Vectans is da, victory is close. With applause, I stepped down from the podium and it was time to leave. The widow thanked me with a soft and defeated voice before we dispersed. On my way back to the car, I still couldn't get the eyes of Bernard's daughter, nor the faltering voice of his wife out of my head. Would Diana, Monica, and Frank look the same way if something happened to me? Petter put his hand on my shoulder. That was a good speech. I sensed only respect from his voice. Thank you, I mean it. I know you do. Come on, it's time to go. We've got work to do. He was right. We had work to do, so much more to do. I realized that the rain stopped, and I looked up. The black clouds slowly dispersed, and sunbeams enlightened our surroundings. As someone once said, even the darkest night will end, and the sun will rise. Hope was still on the horizon. That was beautiful. Extremely so. Briefing on the current diplomatic situation. Oh boy. The door opened and David Vichy, once a lecturer to me, now the Minister of Foreign Affairs, gently made his way towards my desk. May I sit down, Mr. President? Leave the formalities aside, David. Please take a seat. Ah, right. I'm still getting used to your new position, Anton. He slowly sat down. So this was a lecture in what? In history? Taking care not to aggravate the arthritis in his knees. He'd always had an air of gravitas about him, and old age only served to deepen that. After he settled himself, he regarded me with delight, his blue eyes sparkling. Look at you, Anton, the 4th president of Solon. What a privilege for me. I still remember the first day you took my class at the Dare University of Culture. Yeah, this guy's a historian, I'm guessing. Through his father, the founder of the Republic of Swordland. Oh. Diplomat, politician. Helping out 10,000 immigrants of Swedish and British origin while serving as a consul general in Lucia, Lesbia in 1929. Non-partisan and an opponent of Tarquin Sol's policies, although he publicly criticized his own party. Worked closely with Anton Rain and became the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade in 1953. Remember how hard we worked on the Agnolia trade agreement together. It was an experience for sure. We signed our best trade deal yet, with a good slew of trade advantages over Agnolia. It was even somewhat unfair from my point of view. Somehow the inexplicable ebb and flow of life has led us here to positions where we can change the course of history. This is our opportunity to shape the future, and we will do precisely that. I'm looking forward to our new foreign policy. Started coughing again, this time for longer. Would you like some tea or water? Oh yes, please. Tea and water sounds nice. Thank you very much. Livia brought 2 cups of tea along with a glass of water and placed them on the table. Seems you still remember how much I like tea, and nowadays it really does wonders to my throat. Maybe I should try it. Has your niece Margie started going to kindergarten yet? Yes, she has. Spending some time with Margie makes me happy. There's still much ahead of her in life. I sometimes wish Catherine and I had children, but that ship sailed a long time ago. How is the Rain family? Frank never really liked this spotlight, so that hasn't changed. As time passes, I realize that more family is the most important thing in life. We must take care of them. The door opened and Josef and Lucian joined us in the briefing as the tall case clock hit the hour mark. Petra, however, was missing. What if he was late from all the drinking he did at the party in Lachaven? We'll talk more later, President Rain. Welcome, everyone. Let's begin. I'll start by providing a brief overview of the current status with our neighbors. What would you like to start with? I want to know more about Volksland. Our cousins of old across the Markian Sea wish to have good relations with us. As we all know, Volksland is a socialist republic aligned with United Contana. They're an important regional player. It is also the most significant sea power in eastern Merkopo. We had hostile relations with them after several wars in the 19th century, which we wouldn't want to experience again. Recently, the relationship has warmed up thanks to Emmerich Hegel. As a result, diplomatic talks can be conducted in the future. Breaking the ice with Valkland would be good if we are to rise diplomatically. I agree that we could be potential allies, in my opinion. The situation in the region necessitates that we find allies. They haven't been in good relations with us for the past 200 years. Recently, they have also joined the Communist United Kontanan, or Communist Kontanan Security Pact, the CSP, subjugating themselves to United Kontana. Well, I mean, on top of that, the territorial issues flare up between Agnolia and Valkland because of the Helgeland island. The Swedish Navy is very concerned with the volatile situation. Unfortunately, billions of Swedish ren worth of cargo is transported close to Valkslandian maritime borders of the Markin Sea and the Grey Strait. This causes significant risks to our imports and exports in the case of a deterioration in relations. The strait is of high strategic value to us. Joseph, the Navy is keeping an eye on the situation from a distance, right? We are actively monitoring the sea routes and cargo ships. For now, there is no immediate threat, but we don't know what could happen in the future. What's the situation like in Velen? It is tumultuous in the south. As always, Viktor Smolak is expanding his power among the protests from the Wessex people. However, he is quite positive about a normalization of relationships with between our countries. That's good. But if we want to help them, we must not treat refugees like we did in the 1930s. I still can't stomach the inhumanity of those people that those people suffered. Trade agreement with them would improve stability and increase mutual trade. Our main goal should be to avoid a refugee crisis like the late 1920s. The Civil War had major security and economic repercussions on Swedish soil. One of the demands of the President Smolak was to tighten our immigration laws. Well, no. There has been a recent purge that pushed many Bludish to flee to Burja. To Burja. Southwestern section there. President Smolak. Sure you would remember that winter at the border outpost. Yep, I did. I was discharged of my duties as a result by Major Josef Lancia, no less. Spending the rest of my service cleaning toilets and sleeping in a cell. Oh, you did this, you bastard. In fact, there have been several similar refugee situations in the past. Even Mr. President himself chose to disobey direct orders from his commanding officer at the time. I did what was right. Soldiers do not decide on what is right. Soldiers do what they are told to do. He opened his mouth to continue, but David cut in. Our focus should be on the current matters. The Bludish minority is very large inside Velen too, which is a factor to consider. It is our national interest to prevent the formation of a failed state on our western border. Velen has been increasingly aligning itself towards the Communist alliance. Another point to analyze. Agnolia. We are starting to get to the end of the episode though. Our brotherly nation, out of northeast Agnolia, they are still diplomatically non-aligned and probably has one of the most democratic systems between our neighbors. Economic stagnation is a worry for them. Their primary issue is their heavy reliance on foreign investment from us. Agnolia is our most friendly neighbor. We have been allies for the longest time after Rumburg annexed Dome. This fact needs to be a part of the equation. Unsurprisingly, the Agnolian Prime Minister, Martin van Horten, is expecting better cooperation through a new, fairer trade deal with us. It was one of his election mandates. A more comprehensive trade deal sounds beneficial to all sides. Both sides could get information, but Agnolia has more to win than us. They want to protect their weaker industries, which we are profiting from, selling our goods to. Additionally, the latest numbers indicate that currently 1 million Anglo-Swedish citizens live in the Angland region of Sordland, which creates a link between foreign policy and our internal affairs. These people have suffered socioeconomically, which led them to crime and other problems. In addition, the relaxed immigration policy was one of Agnolia's main requests, which is unacceptable. Most of the migrants in our country haven't even assimilated into Swedish culture. Adding more won't help. I don't like his political, his views on a lot of things. I'm supportive of relaxed immigration. I would rethink that matter seriously because it has great influence on our society and values. Yes, it does, in a positive way, I find. We should remember that we promised to keep our immigration laws relaxed in the election campaign. Yes, we did. Lesbian Rumburg, which would I know about Rumburg. Our southern neighbor is aligning itself more and more with Arcadia. Lesbia is currently led by President Patricio Alvarez. They are the jewel of the continent and the second largest economy in Mercopa, though wealthy, Lesbia suffers from excessive economic inequality. Our past relations have been great, but the last decade their investments into Sordland dwindled due to instability. Lesbia is a sleeping giant. We should not awake them. They are a powerful nation which has for a not meddled in the region for a long time. That seems kind of messed up, with the exception of Ellen. Let's not antagonize them. I'm certain that the recession has a lot to do with their attraction of investments. Once they see that the money isn't in the picture, they vanish rather quickly because they are capitalists. They have shown a selfish attitude during the Velen Civil War by closing the borders and funneling refugees to cross into Swordsland. Our values are too different with Lesbia. It will be hard to see eye to eye. Yeah. I completely agree. Lesbia has for a long time benefited from us through our old tariffs. They are after exploitation. There are hundreds of very privileged oligarchs who invest inside and outside of Lesbia. Some made significant business investments in the cities of Benfi and Valgen. And Rumburg. That's Dome, the annexed region. Constitutional monarchy led by Queen Beatrice Livingston. I can't click on her, so guess she's not relevant. I highly advise caution and calculated action against Rumburg. Our military must be prepared and the threat is real. They're strong and have the motivation as well as the means to damage us. We shouldn't give them any reason to pursue aggression. I will take your advice into consideration. These types of nations will always try to make up a casus belli, a reason to declare war. While Thornburg openly denies such claims, their past and current actions make it clear that they want to destabilize us. The weapons caches found by our intelligence agencies clearly show what their goals are. Our military must be steadfast and our diplomacy valiant. Josef looked stern and full of resolve. The Rumburg threat is one of our top priorities, you can be assured of that. We're always in dialogue with our Rumburg ambassador to make sure a channel is open to solve disputes. We should use the aggressive attitude against them by convincing the international community. Lucian grabbed the Lachavan Times newspaper and put a finger on an article about the latest diplomatic incident. Their abrupt announcement about the closure of the Rumburg consulate in Lachavan is yet another step in their escalation. This covers the overview of the current situation. We will move on to our trade choice and the response to Rumburg's diplomatic escalation. But arrived a little late and a little rougher than usual. It must have been the drinking from last night. Hey there, folks. Excuse me my delay. I am sure I didn't miss anything we didn't already know. You were still supposed to be a part of this meeting, also on time. Punctuality is important. We are talking about serious subjects here. Don't comment. It was a one-time thing. Let's just get on with it. The Vice President will be a part of the trade delegation, so it is great to have input on that subject, but also on the Rumburg incident. But two issues at hand. Which topic should we tackle first? Trade negotiations. Two options. All partner Agnolia and forming a new coalition with Velen. Let's go with Agnolia, I think. First off, the reason behind this option is more diplomatic than economic, although, of course, we can't forego the added economic value. Agnolia is an old ally and a valuable trade partner. The point we're out with the early negotiations is around the steel trade. They are demanding that we buy their steel for a higher price. That's because they think that the deal is far too unbalanced as it is. Their second demand is a privileged access to our agricultural market. If we are to fulfill their demands, in return they are offering a full alliance with Swordsland against Rumburg. Looking at the current advances of Rumburg near our borders, having a coalition against Rumburg would prove extremely useful. Obviously there will be consequences for entering a full alliance, mainly the issue is around the Hellish Islands. Valksland has clear intentions on taking over the island, and one way or another, entering a military alliance with Agnolia will make them furious. That's not good, because I kind of like Valksland. I need to zoom through this, because this video is getting way too long. My opinion is that this is a good deal and we should go for it. The new Agnolian Prime Minister is trying to improve the existing relationship. The downside is that we need to make concessions to the reality of any trade deal. We can't position ourselves against Valksland. That is certainly a valid reason. If you decide that Agnolia is a good option, another point is that they have a very democratic system. After the recent elections, the PM has a mandate to arrange a fair trade deal with us. The Prime Minister is also an avid supporter of relaxed immigration. Dealing with a fractured country like Velen has its positives and negatives. Although it will be lucrative in the short term, there are risks associated with dealing with such a country. They are proposing a co-investment project and a no-tariff agreement. They are also offering oil in return for attracting foreign capital interests from Swordsland. However, it is possible that there will be international ramifications for getting closer to a country like Velen. After all, this is a very lucrative deal for us, however. I certainly don't support the decision to become friendly with Velen. We carried their burdens for decades. Their migrants flooded our country, and now they're expecting a deal from us. Maintaining influence with Velen could prove useful. Yes, it is risky, but think about the influence on an underdeveloped region like that. We could also sell more products and enter their market easily. I'm of the opinion that it is simply too risky. Yes, we would gain resources and immediate capital, but I'm afraid of the consequences. You may be right, it's risky. I tend to agree. If we wish to go forward with a deal, then when the time comes, there is the topic of immigration to consider. Yes. Victor Smolak is a known isolationist. Personally, don't like the idea of getting too close to Velen. Me too. I agreed. Still think we should give it a try, says Peter. Since we did not promise to align with neither the East nor the West, it is very likely that their concerns would be more around the deal itself. We also need to consider the effects of our economic doctrine plan. The fact that we are headed towards a planned economy will have an influence. Good negotiators optimize the interest, which makes the difference become trivial, allowing both sides to reach a deal. Very true, Mr. Vector. We have a lot of time to prepare for the scheduled visit to Velen and Agnolia. I believe this gives us a brief overview of our current options, and then the diplomatic incident. Holy crap, this video is going to be so long. Rumburg, Consul Sir Bran Harrington announced the closure of the 120-year-old consulate. Now their diplomatic staff is leaving the city to go back to Thornborough. He blamed the lack of security in Sordon due to the assassination and subsequent protests, but it is obvious that they are making excuses. Bastards, first they close their consulate and then they blame our security. Their concerns could be genuine, but this reaction is unnecessary. Agreed. Other diplomatic missions have worked with the security units to increase the protection of staff and buildings. The neglect of President Alfonso and the chaos of the elections delayed our diplomatic efforts. Now, there are only 2 Rumburg diplomatic missions left in Sordon. One is the consulate in Dare, and the other is the embassy in Holsord. We are accustomed to the usual rhetoric, but this is far more serious. They are playing with fire. Look at what the Velen destabilization has done to the region. Sordon breaking apart would tear Marcopa apart. In my entire career, I've never seen a Rumburg relation suffer this much. The previous low point was the annexation of Dome. There are worrying developments like the smuggled arms and the build-up near the border, and military must be buffed up to stand up against a regional power like Rumburg. We either respond to this aggressive act with diplomatic condemnation, or we retaliate by closing our consulate in Dome. I want to say that an escalation would be risky this early in our presidency. We should focus on creating a negative image of Rumburg in the international scene. This is correct. The people of Sordon must be protected no matter the cost. I say respond equally. No, we do not. An eye for an eye and the whole world goes blind. Provide an official diplomatic response condemning this unreasonable act. Declare that Rumburg aims to destabilize Sordon and the region. As you wish, Mr. President. I shall begin work immediately informing the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade. Swinging the international stage is key to long-term strategy. I wish we had reacted more strongly. Excuse me, my brain is crying for glucose and I've been recording many videos, and this one is very long. If we don't confront them, they will keep escalating the situation. On the other hand, I'm glad that we are taking a more cautious road. Our trade delegation will begin work towards the end of the year. We expect a final negotiation and the signing to happen next year. I'm very much looking forward to visiting Stolport and Raklavich with party animals like David and Simon. Haha. Petter laughed, used to narrowed his eyes and stared at him. Well, that concludes our meetings, Suzerain. Have a good day and enjoy Lachman. I will take my leave then, sir. Our diplomatic action plan finally began. I finally see the saving game thing. What's our next thing? Briefing on the results of the Reform Committee. Oh my boy. My boy? What? My god is what I was going to say, but thank you so much for watching, and I need to go now, because I need to make some spaghetti. I'll see you guys in the next one. Again, likes, Twitter, Twitch, all that bullshit, description. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you. Goodbye.